Rain, do you mind turning off my front lights? The other one. Okay, here we go. So for monthly mortgage payment, there's a down payment as a percentage. So we first have to figure that out. Okay, so 275 times 0.05, right? You divide this by 100. And the down payment is 13,750. You get a mark for having the 13,750 show up somewhere. And then we'll figure out our payment. So 275 minus 13,750. And you multiply that by a table rate in this case, because they didn't give us the table rate. The province on the exam, if they want you to use a table, there'll be a big table right next to this. Like the whole thing you have on your yellow sheet, that's going to be there. If it's not, don't panic. It's in the question, right? They'll give you that rate. I say this because it happens often where students are like, I don't know how to do this. Where's my table rate? It's right in there if there's no table. So the table rate is what? 702? Okay, you get a mark for that 702 showing up in your calculation. And then I will show what this is because it's going to be important later on. What does this mean? That we're borrowing, right? This is the mortgage. We're borrowing 261,250. So 1 mark for the down payment, 1 mark for the 702, and 1 mark for the actual correct calculation, which is, sorry, it's 1833.98. Okay, so 3 marks there. The total amount paid to the bank, so over the life, right? So you will go 1833.98 times 12 times, in this case, it's 15 years. So the total you paid them back is this. Okay, so 1 mark for that. How much was paid in interest? So it's not asking for the first month, right? It's total interest. So for the total interest, I'll just take whatever I paid them and I'll subtract the mortgage amount, the amount I borrowed, right? That difference is what the total interest is. 68,866.40. Okay. 1 mark because you were able to use the previous answer as part of your calculation. That's why it's only worth 1 mark. 2 one-time expenses that can occur. You can actually use the down payment if you wanted to. Lawyer fees, legal fees, it's the same thing. You could do land transfer tax. Have a few on your study sheet, please. This goes back to page, some of you probably know which page. There's a page with a bunch of one-time closing costs. Any other ones that you, what is it? Home inspection, yes, very important actually. Don't buy a house without the inspection. I know you might love the kitchen, but if the basement is falling apart, if there's a crack, you can still buy it, but you can negotiate. It's like, hey, it's gonna take me $30,000 to fix that. I need you to shave off a $30,000 from the asking price. That's all I'm asking, right? So then you at least have leverage, right? If the inspector comes back and says like the wiring needs to be replaced, rewiring a home is like tens of thousands of dollars. It's very, very expensive. So things like that, please get a home inspector to inspect it. I know it's expensive, it's $300 to $500, but compared to spending $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a house, I would say it's relatively small. It's a small price to pay, right? So there we go. And land, so 2 for anyone, any 2 that you feel like you got them, if you went through your booklet, though, any of those 2 home moving expenses, things like that all qualify. Surveyor, surveyor fee, right? Surveyor is the person that makes sure that everything is within your boundaries, even your shed, that your shed isn't sitting on your neighbor's property, it's on your property. Land transfer tax, right? So I've shown you how to do that. You basically go through these numbers. The first 30,000 you pay nothing, right? $0. You subtract, you end up with 145. Then you need to take off the next 60, and you actually can. For that you pay 0.5%, which is $300. When you subtract that, you're left with 85,000. Okay? And so your next amount that you can subtract, and you still can, you get taxed 1%, so that's 600. You subtract, you're left with 25,000. And here's where you need to pay attention, because this is where maybe some of you are not so sure. So we went through the 30, the 60, and the 60, and you're left with 25,000. Look up here. You are in this bracket. Okay, these 25,000 are in this bracket. But we're not using up all 50,000, because if you subtract 50, you would be in the negative. So you stop subtracting, but you tax this amount is what you tax to this 25,000. So basically, you should see a progression, half, 1, and then the next one would be 1.5. Okay. So this is $375 that you pay on the 25 grand. Okay. And you add it all up, and you get that your land transfer tax is $1,275. Okay. Here's where the mark breakdown is going to come in. Okay, I'm gonna give you half for the 300, half for the 600. Okay, and then 1 for the 375, because that's the trickier one there. So that's where the 2 marks come from. Obviously, I would expect you to add it. So if you made a mistake on this last one, take off 1, you still get 1 out of 2 if you have everything else there. Okay. Just so you know, heads up, I will probably try to give you an example or an AC where the province sometimes has a big table like this, and they want you to put in all the numbers in that table. So they're very particular about that when there is a table. So basically what you would do is you just put these numbers in those boxes, and that's all. So it's really the same. It's just a little bit more formal. Next, Natish bought a home valued at $215,000, located in Area 4. What are you thinking of? Insurance, hopefully. And this is homeowner's insurance because they tell you where you live. He chose a comprehensive insurance at $200 deductible. Calculate his yearly insurance premium. So no problem, we'll do that. Insurance, this is the formula that you should have. It's table plus overage. And then there's a dollar amount per thousand. Square bracket times 1.10. This is to add the 10% in order to get a $200 deductible. Are we over in this case? It is over, right? The maximum on our table is 200,000. So I know I'm taking my time here because I know it's Monday, right? So 200,000 is the max for house. So we're in Area 4, and we are, what is it, standard comprehensive? My memory is comprehensive, yeah. It's comprehensive right here. So 1,063, we pay 519 if we were going over, right? So here's where the breakdown comes in. 1,063 gets you a mark already, if you have that number show up somewhere. Plus, how much are you over by? It's actually fairly simple to do this, right? You're over by $15,000. So you need to buy additional insurance. So 15,000 times 519 per thousand. Square bracket. Do I need to multiply by 1.10? Yes, because of that. If they had asked for $500 deductible, omit this step. So for this part right here, just that showing up, you get a mark. For this part, you get a mark. And I will give you a mark as well for the 110 showing up, because that tells me you understand what needs to happen. The fourth mark is going to come from you actually calculating everything and doing this properly. please do this first. 519 divided by 1,000 times 15,000. Let me just look at my key here. That's 7785. And the 1,063 stays, right? Times 1.10. And now the square brackets are still there. You need to add this up. So you end up with 1140.85 times 1.10. Right, so this is your grand finale here. You add 10% to your premium, and that's 1342.78. So that's another mark for you doing this correctly. So let's say you're up here, you completely got this part wrong right here where I'm hovering over. Lose a mark there. Lose a mark, but then I'm going to honor everything else. So you could still get 3 out of 4. If I see you doing the work correctly from there on in. All right. Next, house worth $295,000. What are the land transfer taxes? And always, the province says you will always be given this. So, question? Is it? I know what the mistake is. I'm pretty sure. Is it 1254? This was in the days where I still did taxes. There was a time we added taxes and I didn't look carefully. So sorry about that. So everything is just this last one here, right? Thank you for letting me know, Beckham. I appreciate that. So 1254.94. Sorry about that. It's Monday. It's Monday. Okay. Land transfer tax. Hopefully I get this one right. Listen carefully. This is for you, those of you that like a shortcut. I will show you after I'm done here. You can do anything that's over 200,000 is actually a lot faster than what I show you, but you just need to be super confident when you do that. You need to know, okay, I understand this, I know why Mr. Erickson is doing that. But the long way always works, and it takes you maybe a few seconds longer, okay? So I'm gonna do this, and I know you're gonna watch me and be like, I got this already, right? Just make sure I don't make a mistake. That's all I'm gonna ask you. So we take away the 30, the next is 60. You multiply that by point, that's $300. Then it's 205. I take away the next 60,000. That gets taxed 1%, that's 600. And then you're left with 145. The next amount is 50,000. That leaves you with 95,000. This is 1.5%, right? Which is 750. Does it make sense that this is 95,000? If you think about it, this table gets you up to 200,000, which means that you should have 95,000 left over, right? Past it, and that gets taxed 2%, like that. No more subtracting after the 30, 60, 60, 50. That adds up to 200,000. That's it. Anything over, flat 2%. Okay, and so the 2% is $1,900. Okay, so this is how we're gonna mark this: half for every step, right? And then this one gets a mark, a full mark. So that gets us to 2.5. You adding everything up and getting your land transfer tax, which is $35.50, is going to be another half mark today here. Okay. So that's where the 3 come from. Okay, this is the shortcut. Watch what I'm doing here. These, if anything is over 200, you are gonna max out on these 3 categories there. What does that always add up to? Has anybody already noticed a pattern? 300 and 600 is 900 plus 750. That's always 1650. So if you always max out, right, you're gonna have to go through these these steps if you have anything over 200,000, okay? So this is the shortcut. You go like this. 1650, right? This is the 1650 for the first 200K. Plus, how much are you over by? In this case, you're over by 95,000. So you multiply that by 2% flat. So this is the 95K right here, this part right here. So it ends up being 1650 plus 1900, and that is 3550, and you're done. Okay, so if a house is over 200,000, you can break this up into 1650 is going to be paid for the first 200,000 of value, and then you subtract from the value of the house, you subtract 200,000 to see how much you're over by, and just give that a 2% flat rate. And you add it onto the 1650, and then you get your property taxes. Again, you need to be very sure that you know what you're doing if you choose to do it this way. And you know what? I don't know why, but the province seems to give us prices, house prices that are under 200,000. Like that's what they kind of tend to do, even though very few houses are under 200,000 these days. Very few. It's not very the norm. But I think what they're trying to do is, do you understand this? Like, do you understand if a house is like in between somewhere? Do you know what to do? That's what they're after. Okay, precision for this. I would consider you grab any two numbers. And so this is my high and this is my low. Okay? So if you think about it, 60 minus 40 divided by 10, right? That's 20 divided by 10. So that would be 2 milliliters. That's the precision. So this is your bonus if you got that right. So you get a +1 if you get that one right. So let's do the math here for the marks. So 3 and 4. So the back side is worth 7. The back side is worth 7. So put a mark out of 7 there. And the front was 3, 4, 5, 7, 9. So the front was out of 9. So 9 and 7 is 16. 9 and 7 is 16. So you could have scored 16. Actually, you could have scored 17 out of 16 if you were able to answer everything.